So Euphoria Season 2 has finally come to a close. The series is extremely detail oriented. If you know Levison as a director, you know that he doesn't let anything go to waste. For example, back in season 1, there's this moment when Rue was dancing at a party, and the lyrics of the song that was playing mentioned the city of Oakland, California. Now, if you guys didn't know, Zendaya's hometown is Oakland, California. And in that scene, Rue only sang along to the lyrics when it mentioned Oakland. So even right there is a detail that a lot of people would overlook. On that note, I want to talk to you guys about more details that may have gone overlooked throughout this season. Hey, it's Patrice, and spoilers ahead for Euphoria Season 1 and 2. If you're not caught up, then what are you doing here? Go catch up. Come on now, the season's done. Also, spoiler warning for Grey's Anatomy, surprisingly, because there's an Easter egg in season 2 referencing the series. If you're a fan of both Euphoria and Grey's Anatomy, I'm sure you know that Cal's actor Eric Dane also plays Dr. Mark Sloan in the series. Now in Grey's Anatomy, Sloan is best friends with another doctor named Dr. Shepard, whose first name is Derek. That's very important. Put a pinhole in that. The two characters had a falling out in the series after Dr. Sloan slept with Derek's wife, and yeah, that friendship ended. Now when we get that explanation of Cal's backstory about why he's not comfortable with his sexuality, we learn that Cal had a best friend growing up and his name was also Derek. I'm sure there's no coincidence that Levison gave them the same names. He knew what he was doing when he did that. Let's talk about a couple of callbacks to season 1 now. You guys remember back to season 1 when Rue and Jules were at that carnival surrounded by people that they didn't know, and when they saw each other they were both just so happy. Jules ran into Rue's embrace and the two characters found comfort in each other after being surrounded by people that, you know, they didn't know, people who didn't understand who they were or what they were going through. The scene takes place after the two make up when Rue gets jealous of Jules talking to Tyler. Well, in season 2, that exact situation was paralleled. After the two end up getting back together in episode 1, there's this moment in episode 2 when Rue and Jules are in the hallway and they're looking down at each other, surrounded by more people that don't understand them or that they don't know. They're excited to see each other and this time they kiss. I thought it was a cool parallel. It's very cute seeing Rue and Jules be together again, even though they may not be right for each other. Another callback was during Kat and Ethan's breakup. I'm sure you guys are all aware that Kat didn't really have that much screen time this season, and that her plotline kind of just boiled down to her feeling bored with Ethan and reacting to everybody else's drama. So allegedly, Kat's actress Barbie Ferreira and Sam Levison were butting heads on set over the direction that Levison wanted to take her character. So a lot of her plot ended up getting cut out because of that. Maybe. And you know, it's really disappointing because Kat had a lot of potential this season. But anyway, during their breakup scene, Kat calls Ethan an incel in an attempt to kind of like push him over the edge and make that whole breakup situation seem more one-sided than it actually was. It was actually a callback to when they first met, when Ethan made the Reddit incel joke to her. She kind of took that joke he made when they first met and turned it against them while they were breaking up. One more callback to season 1. In episode 7 of season 2, we get a couple of flashbacks to Lexi and Fez kind of like chilling together, showing that they're building a relationship. In one of those flashbacks, Fez and Rue draw on Lexi's face, comment and say that she looks kind of like Bob Ross while kind of struggling to remember what the painter's name was. Well, that's kind of a callback to when Lexi actually showed up to the Halloween party dressed as Bob Ross and nobody knew who Bob Ross was, apparently. Because, you know, people from our generation don't know who Bob Ross is. Come on, Sam Levison. Everybody knows who Bob Ross is. Levison probably also didn't think that his younger audience would understand a lot of his movie references. Well, too bad for him. I'm here to explain them to you. So in Cassie's whole climax scene where she finally breaks down, Nate breaks up with her, and when she's staring through the auditorium window looking pretty menacing, the shot of her looking through that window could actually be seen as a reference to a bunch of different movies. For example, The Shining could also be a reference to Jurassic Park when the dinosaur was looking through the window and breathing and you could see his breath fogging up the window just like Cassie's was. And she kind of also looks like Carrie looking through that window like that. She looks pretty terrifying. And then the other scene when she's in the bathroom by herself looking in the mirror, that's also a pretty obvious reference to the Joker. Another little Cassie detail was in episode 6 while she was talking to Nate on the phone. If you look at the posters on her walls, you can see she has 2 posters of the R&B star Kehlani, one of which was of her debut album Sweet Sexy Savage, and another one was of her mixtape While We Wait. But what makes this interesting is that the artist herself actually noticed the posters and called it out on Instagram. Poor Kehlani. And yes, I agree, Cassie needs to heal. Another little Easter egg was in episode 5 when we see a small photo of what looks like to be Jesse Plemons, the actor who played Todd in Breaking Bad and starred in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It might not be him, but it really looks like him in the photo. Fans were theorizing that he might show up in the series in some way. Seeing him in his other roles, I think he would be a really good fit for Euphoria as well, especially considering that he's good in both dramatic series and psychological thrillers, which is what Euphoria essentially is. I got a couple of things I learned from Euphoria Talk. I think, is that what that side of TikTok is called? I'm not sure. I'm not on TikTok that much. I like TikTok. I'm not too far behind, guys. I like TikTok. I'm just not like super deep into TikTok. But I found a couple of things on there for you. One of them was found by @JenniferMuellerLOL, where she notes that in episode 1 of season 2, the scene where Rue is walking into the party, you can see the license plates of all the cars. A lot of people wonder where Euphoria takes place, and this could have like revealed it because you can look at the license plate and see what state they're from. Unfortunately, all the license plates just say drive safely. Yeah, that's a really interesting detail because it kind of leaves the setting of Euphoria a little bit more ambiguous. I don't think it's important to the series at all, but I think it was a cool little detail to have them all just say drive safely. This one's also from Euphoria Talk by @MargFYS. She noted that during Rue's relapse scene of episode 8 of season 1, there was this moment where she was dancing with her father, and there was a specific dance move that was replicated between Rue and Elliot. What's interesting between the two characters is that both Elliot and Rue's dad are people who Rue is comfortable doing drugs with, and there's not really many people that you can say that for. Like she does drugs around everybody, but the people who she'll do drugs and just chill with are pretty limited. Her dad being one of them because he wasn't aware, and Elliot because he's also into drugs and somebody who encourages it. We'll talk about Elliot a little bit more later. Alright, so if you guys missed this one, then you're probably living under a rock because this hidden detail was everywhere. And yeah, I'm talking about Nate Jacobs' third brother. In episode 4, when Cal comes home from his existential crisis and finally breaks down and decides to leave his family, he stops for a second and takes a family photo in which we can see Cal, Nate's mother, Nate, the brother, and a third child that was never mentioned throughout the series before this point. I mean, it wasn't mentioned after this point either. So I mean, it's something we're gonna have to dive into a little later on. Okay, so this one I wouldn't call much of a hidden detail, more like a why aren't there more details for this? So in season 2, Mckay had a similar fate to Kat in that he didn't really show up in the season at all. In fact, he had it worse. He was only in 1 episode, but he had a lot of plot lines that were just seemingly abandoned. Like him and Cassie had a very complex relationship. Levison might have just wanted to focus more on specific characters. We might see more of him in a future season, just like Kat. Hopefully we see them both again and they get more development and, you know, more satisfying conclusions to their characters. A lot of the titles from season 1 and 2 are references to songs, quotes, books, poems, and other types of media, and their titles always kind of match up with what's going on in the episode. Like in season 1, episode 2, Stuntin' Like My Daddy by Lil Wayne and Birdman. Season 1, episode 4, Shook Ones. 03, Bonnie and Clyde. The next episode, The Trials and Tribulations of Trying to Pee While Depressed, is actually a song by Labyrinth, who does most of the songs for the show. Season 2 titles, on the other hand, are more so based on books, quotes, and poems. For example, episode 5, Stand Still Like the Hummingbird, is actually a reference to a collection of essays written by Henry Miller. The title of the episode is from a quote in Miller's essay. When you are convinced all exits are blocked, either you take to believing in miracles or you stand still like the hummingbird. And throughout the episode, we can see all of Rue's exits are blocked. So she runs through alleys, she gets chased by police, she has to confront her family, and everything seems to be closing around her. Eventually, she finds herself in the danger she was running from all along. Another small plotline that we finally got a conclusion to was Maddy wearing Samantha's dresses and her being recorded. Because in episode 7, Samantha gives the dress to Maddy, and it seems like she more so noticed that she was wearing the dresses and just was like, hey, I see a little bit of myself in you and I'm gonna give this to you. Samantha is kind of shown to be the adult version of Maddy, as she went through a lot of the different things that Maddy went through when she was younger. And she's kind of like plays this mentor role in a sense. But is that really the end of that plot line? Or is she still trying to plot something a little bit more sinister? So remember how I said I'll talk about Elliot a little bit more? Him and Rue's relationship was very interesting throughout this season. Well, in the finale, when Rue and Elliot are kind of saying their goodbyes to each other and realizing that they're not really good for each other in terms of a friendship, Rue thanks him for pretty much snitching and saving her life. And what's really interesting about that is that their friendship ends by Elliot saving her life when he stops her from using drugs. Their friendship began by Elliot saving her life by giving her drugs. Levison really likes to begin and end relationships pretty much the same way. This whole time we thought Rue's name was just Rue. In episode 5, when Lori takes her in after running from the cops, Lori noticed that she's going through withdrawal and gives her morphine. But before she does that, she calls her by her full name, Ruby Bennett. I'm pretty sure she has people doing her research for her. She gave Rue $10,000 in drugs. Of course she's gonna know her full name. So it wasn't until season 2, episode 5, that we learned Rue's full name is Ruby. Nate sucks. Nobody likes him, but nobody hates him more than the people that he's hurt in the show. Specifically, this little detail is about Maddy. In her phone, she has him as F Nate, and it's a blink and you miss it moment, as well as a makeup brand called I'm Single, another way for her character to tell Nate to F off. Speaking of Maddy's phone, Maddy also has herself as her own background, so yeah, cool, self-love and all that. Alright, back to the title references for a second. Episode 7's title is identical to an essay collection by French playwright Antonin Arnaud. The title of the episode is The Theater and Its Double. In his essays, one of his major arguments is that theater and reality are a double of one another. This is a really good example of how the title of the episode reflects the content of the episode. The theater and its doubles is literally what's going on in the episode. You got all of the characters of the series seeing themselves, their doubles, during the play. They're forced to see themselves through another person's perspective. Nate's sequence in episode 7 was oddly very dark and dreamy. The mirror moment is eerily similar to a painting called Not to Be Reproduced. Both the shot of Nate looking at the back of his head in a mirror and that painting both have meanings of not being able to see your true self or hiding the dark parts of yourself. Levison really played with time in episodes 7 and 8, just like he did at the end of season 1. Well, during episode 8, there's this moment where we're seeing Rue and Lexi kind of make up and hang out and kind of confide in each other about not having their fathers in their lives. We zoom out to see Rue's double and Lexi back on the stage saying they missed each other and the play ending. So in that moment, it made me think, what if none of that actually happened? What if Lexi just wanted there to be a moment for Rue and her to finally become friends again and wrote that into her play because she could? While the play still touched Rue, as we could see by her ending monologue, Rue may have not been in a position to go and make amends with her best friend or with her former best friend yet. Of course, I could be making a big nothing out of this and it could have just been literally just been Levison being Levison and using that as like an interesting transition, because the whole episode, the past 2 episodes, time was not a thing. Time did not exist at all. Everything was happening at once. And so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just like making a big nothing out of that. As good as the musician Dominic Fike is, I'm sure most of us can agree that his song kind of went on just a little bit too long. At least that's what I thought at first. Then I listened to the lyrics and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense that this went on for so long. The song pretty much summed up the relationship between both him and Rue. While it may have seemed like a promotion, it was a very meaningful song and it encapsulated the relationship that built up between Rue and Elliot throughout the season. In the season finale, the show closes out with Rue revealing that she's been clean for the rest of the school year. And while that's a good thing, what's worrying is that she said it in the past tense. So right in that moment, it could have been some foreshadowing that she might relapse again in the next season. If the past tense was really referring to a potential relapse in the future, at least we can celebrate her taking these small steps of trying to be a better person and learning new skills that'll help her to stay clean in the future. In episode 3, during that pool scene with Maddy and Cassie, the two were discussing Nate while chilling by the poolside. During their conversation, the song Como La Flor by Selena plays in the background. It's an upbeat song about a failed relationship. I think it fits perfectly with the dynamics of the scene, especially because we know what's going to happen in the rest of the season. Selena's fast and fun beat, cooped together with her more depressing lyrics, is a perfect parallel to what's actually going on in the scene. Okay, so I've talked about Rue and Elliot a good chunk, but I really think that their relationship was something special in this show. Where in that scene where Rue's mom was taking her back to rehab, she looked back and saw Elliot. The scene pretty much perfectly parallels when Rue first saw Jules in episode 1 when she was leaving rehab. Both times when Rue looked out that window, she saw a character that she would end up forming a lot of love for. Alright, that's all I got for you guys this time. I hope you guys enjoyed diving into all the little details of the season. There's tons more that I missed, I know. Let me know about the details you guys noticed in the comments. I would love to know a couple of the things that I missed while watching the show. Also, we still team Maddy in this bit.